We should realize that, so change it.
Thank you. Christine?
Sure. I have a question for the Canadian panelist and for the Mexican panelist. In the United States, there is a phenomenon which Jeff didn't get to go into in terrific detail, called preemptive prosecution is the shorthand for it, and basically it's a process by which nearly weekly we have an entrapment and frame-up of Muslim activists, the vast majority of whom are sentenced. It's estimated that there could be up to 700 of them. They're held in private prisons called communication management units in solitary confinement. Basically, all the government proves is that they share political views or some evidence of ideology that would show them to be sympathetic to terrorism, and it's an extremely potent ideological weapon in the hands of the government. So I'm just wondering if that level of entrapment is going on in Canada, that we know about it. It's probably one of the main reasons for the alliance we have with the Muslim community in the U.S. And then in terms of Mexico, in the United States, there's a continual effort to link Mexican immigrants and Mexican immigrants crossing the border, and to say that is a threat, that poses a threat of terrorism, because any leaking across the Mexican border. And so I'm just wondering if there's a counterpart to that in Mexico.
Thank you, comrade. Okay, so is there anybody else that would like to speak that hasn't spoken yet? Because I have some second-time speakers. Okay, I have one. Anybody else that hasn't spoken that would like to speak? It's the last chance before I close the list. Okay, I have two speakers for the second time around, and then we're going to come back to the panel for 5 minutes each, and that'll be a wrap. Okay, Doug?
I don't know where to start.
You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes, that's very good. A minute a sheet. I think it's pretty clear that we have a system that's, one, not a democracy, because we have corporations, the pipers that pay the tune, that support basically Democrat or Republican or liberal or conservative. And when things fall down and the corruption becomes really obvious, I guess liberals fall apart. Parts of the country won't even think about supporting them. And we have those problems. In Mexico, I know a large number of people that spend their time transferring businesses to China and Mexico, among a few other countries in Asia as well. But those are major repositories of some very highly technologically developed, but making very big use of either resources in those particular countries or the cheap labor in those countries. Those things in some ways are technical parts that almost are irrelevant to the whole picture. They're part of a picture and they cloud and confuse it. It's as if we're giving the rest of the world our what we have that's so wonderful here. What we don't have here is the ability to run a system, and if there's any interference, then that system becomes clear. There's not a democracy, and there's a legal system, but there's not a justice system. I believe Louise Abour had 22 people that were subjected to similar systems, methodologies of just routine torture. They appear to be used to terrorize people within the legal system or others that are activists, that such things could happen to them. We have a system that people know and say, and neighbors say, $20,000, you would have been out of there, that's it. But it's like my 4 kids would all be in jail. They'd be in the University of the penal system. rather than universities, if I didn't have an extra corporation that half of the profits from that company went to the lawyers that keep things straight for them. His children happen to be black. And so they are, as you say, 10 times as likely to be in University of jail rather than in university. We have a system that's a disguise. We need to educate the public. When you've got Ralph Nader's letter to Harper saying what's going on with trying to change our system as far as the armament system, I think you know, hopefully all of you, about the things that I'm talking about. Those things scare me in a way that I want a country that our children and grandchildren can grow up in, that's a country that's for their good and their benefit and the benefit of the world, not something that's being destroyed rather than them lose it. Anyway, I'm looking for answers.
Your time's up. Thank you. Okay, so we have no, the list is closed. I said the list was closed a little while ago, and I mean it. And so we have one speaker that I said was on the list, and for the second time around, and that's John Wunderlich. Then we come back to the panel.
I'd like to address two things. One is to avoid romanticism of the past. An earlier speaker referred to the Native population. There were in excess of 450 various Native civilizations or groups in prehistorical North America, not all of whom were ecologically friendly. I point to Buffalo Jump, where they stampeded herds of buffalo off the cliff to harvest for their own use. So our hope is not to recreate a past or a pre-capitalist past. Our hope is to create a post-capitalist future, a socialism that depends not on the bounty of the land, but on the bounty of the working class. Secondly, the fear is at the heart of all of this. Fear is a tool of the ruling class. Nothing engenders the ability of the government to work freely than the fear of the population. The fascists use it as a tool, and because of that, people accuse Harper of being a fascist. I don't think that's an appropriate analysis. And the proper counteraction to fear, which leads to a feeling of powerlessness, which leads to apathy and alienation, the counteraction to that is hope. So every element of our fight back is not just what we're against, it's what we're for. And say there is a better way possible, and this is what it is. And help us fight for that and not just against that. Because the fight against is ultimately doomed to failure if that's all you're ever doing, is fighting against something.
Okay, thank you, Conrad. Okay, so what we're going to do now is come back to the panel, and we're going to start with Barbara, and then we're going to go to Mexico, and then back here to Jeff. And please, comrades, if everybody could take just 5 minutes, I'd appreciate it. So, Sister Barbara.
I can speed up your watch.
With respect to the comments about self-determination, it is it's common Article 1 to the International Bill of Rights. It's a norm of customary international law. A norm of customary international law that is never respected by anybody. I think that's really important, but is there also a self-determination right for Indigenous peoples recognized in that sorry. I was going to say, in terms of the self-determination right, self-determination is a fundamental principle which I think should be respected.
Better.
But is it, in terms of...
Turn the big mic off.
Okay, it's worse. I just got to stick right into it.
Okay, in terms of the motion that the guy was talking about, I was just saying that you should add Indigenous peoples' rights to self-determination, because it's not just Quebec that has it, it's Indigenous peoples as well. With respect to whether or not we have the preemptive prosecution, we have all sorts of preemptive measures. The Brampton 18 is a good example. They never did anything. They went up and played around in a camp, and they're facing serious, some of them got serious time for having been involved in discussions about what they were going to do.
With RCMP mole.
Yeah, with an RCMP, whose name got passed over to the U.S. as a terrorist
Yeah.
for having been their mole. So yes, they're doing that. The security certificates that they've imposed on non-citizens. There's hundreds of other people who don't have security certificates but face removal proceedings for as a preemptive measure as well. So it is happening here. And I wasn't quite sure about the point about Louise Arbour. She's done very good work in terms of human rights, but she's been on several panels. She decided the Suresh case, the Ahani case, the ones that said you can return to torture in exceptional circumstances. And I mean, she's an upholder of human rights, but also when she was a judge in the Supreme Court of Canada was an upholder of the court.
Right, she's
So.
whether to open those things.
Oh, you're
up.
finished, Barbara?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll take her time.
No, you won't.
No, we won't.
Thank you, sister. We're both in agreement. Okay, Ivy, you're on. 5 minutes.
I will try to answer a question, well, the other speakers have addressed it, but I would like to try to give my 10 cents on the point, and at which point can we say that this is, that we are still in a democracy, and at which point can we say that the system is no longer democratic, and what would be the what would be the criteria, let's say, to change your characterization that, for example, the United States is still a bourgeois democracy. Democratic rights and human rights are, imagine it like a system that is floating or something that is being pushed down by some forces and being pushed up by other forces. This is always the situation. I mean, there are always forces within the capitalist class, and even darker, let's say some darker extreme right groups, which always try to sink democracy and try to attack democratic rights. And you have an extreme example of this by these right-wing bloggers in the United States, which have concocted the most incredible lies in order to try to get people to jump on their bandwagon. I mean, really, some really very, very crazy stuff. Not only this thing whether Obama was born in the United States, but even crazier stuff than that, and all sorts of conspiracy theories. Most of the time, these groups are just marginal, and they're just there in the margins, playing a very insignificant role, with probably some conservative, dog-faced senator playing games with them, and giving them some credibility for all that. The danger of the current moment is that these groups are no longer marginal. They are beginning to gain ascendancy, and they're pushing the ball down the water, so to speak. And the forces that, as is our case, if we want the ball to float more, do not have enough support, or there is not enough popular mobilization and discontent in order to completely turn back these curves. But it will always be a movement like this. And the situation, however, is not totally discouraging. Of course, I mean, we are suffering severe demobilization in many sectors, which traditionally would have answered very, very quickly and decisively to these sorts of attempts against human rights, against civil liberties. But at the same time, we do have very encouraging reactions. As I told you, with this newswoman, a very brave person who was reinstated in her job